You are walking down a quiet street at night. A shadow shifts near a parked car. Your body reacts before your mind does. Your heart jumps. Your muscles tighten. You flinch. Then half a second later, you realize it was just a cat. But here's the strange part. Your brain already decided you were in danger before you ever saw what it was. The real answer to why this happens is far stranger than instinct or nerves. It's a survival system built hundreds of thousands of years before parked cars existed. Think about that flinch again. It wasn't a choice. You didn't reason your way into fear. Something older than reasoning took over. Your ancestors didn't have the luxury of thinking first and reacting second. On the savannah, the humans who paused to analyze a rustling bush before reacting often didn't survive long enough to pass on their genes. The ones who flinched first and asked questions later did. That bias is still running inside you right now, in a body that will probably never meet a lion. Your brain has a shortcut. Neuroscientist Joseph LeDoux mapped it decades ago, tracing how a threat signal can reach the amygdala, your brain's alarm system, before it ever reaches the parts of your brain responsible for conscious thought. This means your body can start preparing to run or fight before you've even consciously registered what you're looking at. Isn't that unsettling? You are, in a very real sense, protected by a version of yourself that reacts faster than you do. Picture the shadow again. Light bounces off it and hits your eyes. That information splits into two paths. One path travels slowly through the visual cortex, building a detailed, accurate picture of what's actually there. The other path is a shortcut, a rough sketch sent straight to the amygdala. It skips the details. It doesn't care if the shape is a person, a bag blowing in the wind, or nothing at all. It only asks one question. Could this hurt me? If the answer might be yes, it hits the alarm immediately. This is why you can flinch at a coiled hose in the grass, mistaking it for a snake. Psychologist Arne Öhman spent years studying this exact pattern. In his experiments, people detected images of snakes and spiders faster than they detected flowers or mushrooms, even when the images were flashed for a fraction of a second. Your visual system isn't just looking. It's scanning for a small set of ancient dangers, tuned by millions of years of ancestors who didn't survive the ones they missed. Here's the twist most people never think about. This fast alarm system doesn't know what year it is. It doesn't know you live in an apartment with locked doors and working streetlights. It was built for a world with real predators, real cliffs, real strangers who might mean harm. Your amygdala is running software designed for the Pleistocene, installed in a body walking through a modern parking lot. It reacts to a car backfiring the same way it once reacted to a branch snapping in the dark. So why does this matter now? Because the world stopped being dangerous in the old way, but your body never got the memo. Modern stress doesn't come from lions. It comes from emails, deadlines, notifications, arguments you replay in your head at 2 a.m., but your nervous system treats all of it with the same ancient alarm. Biologist Robert Sapolsky has spent his career studying exactly this mismatch, showing how zebras experience intense stress for minutes while running from a predator, then return to calm. Humans, on the other hand, can trigger that same stress response just by thinking about a bill that's due next week. The alarm doesn't distinguish between a real threat and an imagined one. Think about what that means for your daily life. Every time your palms sweat before a presentation, every time your chest tightens reading a tense text message, your amygdala is doing exactly what it evolved to do. It's just aiming an ancient weapon at a modern target. You are not broken. You are not overreacting. You are running code that kept your ancestors alive for hundreds of thousands of years, applied to a world that no longer matches its instructions. Does this mean you're stuck reacting this way forever? Not entirely. The same research that uncovered this fast alarm system also revealed something hopeful. The slower path, the one running through your conscious mind, can eventually catch up. It can recognize the shadow as a cat. It can tell your body, a few seconds late, that the danger has passed. This is why your heart rate calms down after a startle, even if it takes a moment. Your thinking brain is constantly working to correct the guesses your alarm system makes in a fraction of a second. Consider how often this plays out without you noticing. A dog barks behind a fence, and your body tenses before your mind decides it's harmless. Someone raises their voice nearby, and your shoulders lift before you've even processed the words. A door slams in another room, and you're on alert before you remember you live alone in a safe building. Each of these moments is a tiny replay of a system built for survival in a world that mostly no longer requires it. What's strange is how much of modern life is designed, intentionally or not, to trigger this same ancient circuit. Horror movies work because they exploit the fast path. Showing a shape in darkness before the slow path can identify it as harmless. Notifications on your phone use a similar trick, a small burst of urgency that fires before you consciously decide whether it matters. Even arguments online can spike your heart rate the same way a rustling bush once did, because your brain still treats social threat as a kind of danger worth an alarm. Here's the part worth sitting with. Your ancestors' world was full of real, immediate physical danger, and their fear kept them alive long enough to have children, who eventually had you. Your world is comparatively safe, yet the alarm system remains just as loud. You inherited a brain tuned for constant vigilance in an environment that has, in many ways, moved on without it. That gap between the world your body expects and the world you actually live in explains more of your anxiety, your jumpiness, your restless nights, than most people realize. Knowing this doesn't shut the alarm off, but it does change what it means when it goes off. The next time your chest tightens over something small, that isn't a personal failure. That's hundreds of thousands of years of survival instinct firing exactly the way it was built to. Your ancestors would recognize the feeling instantly, even if they wouldn't recognize the shadow, the phone screen, or the inbox that triggered it. Think about how early this system starts working. Babies only a few months old already show a stronger startle response to sudden loud noises and looming shapes than to almost anything else in their environment. Nobody teaches an infant to fear a sudden crash. That fear arrives pre-installed, tested and refined over countless generations before that infant ever opened its eyes. You didn't learn to flinch. You inherited it, the same way you inherited the shape of your hands or the color of your eyes. Consider, too, how selective this ancient alarm really is. It doesn't treat every danger equally. Öhman's research found that people were far quicker to spot a single snake hidden among a crowd of harmless objects than to spot a single harmless object hidden among snakes. Your visual system isn't scanning the world evenly. It's weighted, almost obsessively, toward the specific threats that shaped survival for millions of years. Things that slither, things that lunge, things with teeth. Modern dangers rarely look like this, which is part of why your alarm system so often misfires on the wrong things and stays quiet about the right ones. Here's something else worth noticing. Your body doesn't just react to danger. It reacts to the possibility of danger, which is a much larger and blurrier category. A rope in dim light. A stranger walking too closely behind you. A sudden change in someone's tone of voice. None of these are confirmed threats. They are only shaped like threats, and for your amygdala, that's enough. Being wrong about a stick and treating it like a snake costs you almost nothing. Being wrong about a snake and treating it like a stick could cost you everything. Evolution built you to accept 1,000 false alarms in exchange for avoiding one fatal mistake. This is why fear feels so disproportionate sometimes, and so hard to argue with. Have you ever tried telling yourself in the middle of a panic that there's nothing to be afraid of? It rarely works right away, does it? That's because you're trying to reason with a system that evolved specifically to act faster than reasoning. Logic lives in a slower, newer part of your brain. Fear lives in an older, faster one that doesn't wait for permission. Sapolsky's work adds another layer to this picture. He points out that a zebra's stress response is almost perfectly matched to its situation. There's a lion, the zebra runs, the lion is gone, the stress ends. Humans, though, can activate the exact same biological alarm for threats that exist only in memory or imagination. Replaying an embarrassing conversation from a week ago. Worrying about a threat that might happen next year. Reading a headline about a disaster on the other side of the planet. Your amygdala responds to imagined danger with almost the same intensity it reserves for a real predator. Because as far as your ancient alarm system is concerned, a vivid thought and a real threat aren't always easy to tell apart. So what does it look like when this ancient system meets a thoroughly modern life? It looks like checking your phone for a message that hasn't come, and feeling your stomach drop slightly each time it isn't there. It looks like your shoulders climbing toward your ears during a tense meeting, even though nothing physical is threatening you in that room. It looks like lying awake replaying a conversation, your body still bracing for a conflict that already ended hours ago. None of this is weakness. It's an alarm system doing exactly what kept your ancestors alive, aimed at targets it was never designed to recognize. There is a strange kind of comfort in understanding this. The flinch you can't control, the tightness in your chest before an uncertain moment, the way your body reacts to a stranger's raised voice before your mind catches up. All of it traces back to a lineage of humans who survived long enough to make you possible. Every one of your ancestors, going back further than written history can reach, felt some version of this same fast, unreasoning alarm, and it worked well enough, often enough, to get their genes to you. None of this means you're destined to live at the mercy of every false alarm. The slower, newer parts of your brain are still capable of stepping in, still capable of telling your body, a few seconds late, that the shadow was only a cat, that the email wasn't an attack, that the silence from a friend isn't abandonment. That correction takes a little longer than the alarm itself, but it's there, running quietly underneath the panic, waiting to catch up. So go back to that street at night. The shadow shifts. Your body reacts before your mind does. Now you know why. It isn't fear of the unknown. It's an ancient guardian, one built long before streetlights and parked cars, still standing watch inside you, still flinching first and asking questions later. Because for most of human history, that flinch was the only thing standing between your ancestors and everything that wanted to end their story before it reached you.